Becoming a tech founder changes what becomes available to you, even before you actually succeed. This episode is about the side effect of building a tech venture, especially for experienced business owners, and why those side effects alone can make building a tech venture worth it in the first place.
Hello and welcome to the Tech for Non-Techies podcast. I'm your host, Sophia. If you're a non-technical founder building a tech product or adding AI to your business, you're in the right place. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, step-by-step playbooks, and real-world case studies to help you launch and scale a tech business without learning to code. And this is not another startup show full of jargon, venture capital theater, or tech bro bravado. Here, we focus on building useful products that make money without hype and without code. I've written for the Harvard Business Review and lectured at Oxford, London Business School, and Chicago Booth, so you are in safe hands. I've also helped hundreds of founders go from concept to scalable product. And now it's your turn. So let's dive in.
This episode is sponsored by Tech for Non-Technical Founders, the program that helps non-technical entrepreneurs go from idea to market-ready product without wasting $100,000 on avoidable mistakes. And if you're a non-technical founder who has already spent thousands of dollars and months of time on development, only turned up with nothing release ready to show for it, well, you're not alone. And if you haven't hired developers yet and you're wondering where to start, well, that's even better. Because the biggest mistake I see after coaching hundreds of non-technical founders is not hiring the wrong people. It's actually hiring before you know what you're doing. It's actually hiring before you know what you're doing. And that's exactly why I'm hosting a free live class on January the 13th, 2026, called From Business Owner to Tech Founder, without the 100K developer disaster. I'm going to walk you through the exact two-step framework that I've taught at Oxford, London Business School, and Techstars, so you can finally understand why smart, capable business owners blow $100,000 on their first tech venture. We'll cover when AI actually helps versus when it destroys your product, and we'll cover how to think like a tech founder instead of a developer client with a credit card. I'll also give you the behind-the-scenes preview of the Tech for Non-Technical Founders program so you can see what's possible with the right guidance and the right process. So make sure to sign up to the free class on January the 13th. That's techfornontechies.co/January. And the link is also in the show notes. Because the next 100K you spend, it should go toward growth and not towards painful lessons. Hello, smart people. How are you today? Are you ready for the holidays? Have you bought all your gifts? Are you in a panic? I am somewhere in between panic and denial because, frankly, I have a lot of work to do and I don't like the fact that December can be this throwaway month where people are like, oh, really, we only work for a week and then the rest of the time it's just drunken party time. Maybe I was more into that in my 20s, but now I am an older, more mature woman. I think I want to get some stuff done. I want to finish this year really, really ready for 2026. Anyway, in this episode, I want to talk to you about the benefits that I have had and also my students have had from becoming tech founders. But this is not an episode that says, quit your job. Anybody can build a unicorn. Tech founders are special, because there's a lot of nonsense out there online and I don't want to add to that. This episode is about what actually happens to your professional life when you start building a tech venture. And I literally mean when you start, not when you're already, a super successful tech founder, because that's obvious. I don't need to tell you that. Often I see business owners and very successful professionals in business. If you have built a business, you're a very successful professional. You underestimate this upside, which is why I wanted to make it clear. And because this episode is coming out at the end of December, I think this is really useful for you to know when you are thinking about what you want for 2026 and beyond. So let's talk about the tangible side effects of becoming a tech founder. So number one is that you start being seen as an innovator in your industry. So you are somebody who sees future trends, which means that you start getting invited into rooms that you basically, didn't have access to before. So for example, when I first started my first ever tech company, and frankly, I was really quite early on in my journey, I was already being interviewed by the trade press for retail. So it was a retail tech company that started, and I was being asked to give my opinion in the press, in the retail press, and I was being invited to speak at retail conferences because basically I had a view on what was happening in the industry. And this is by default because if you have an idea for a tech venture, then by definition, you see a gap in the market, right? Like that's why you have this idea. And so especially if you are a business owner, that means that you've been operating in your sector for a while. You've probably seen some sort of process that isn't super efficient or some sort of way to scale an offering that's currently maybe just brick and mortar. And so basically, because you have this insight just on the possibility, even before you actually made that possibility come true, if you have insight just on the possibility, you're already a pretty interesting commentator. And actually, we can even look at this, like look at Sam Altman. Often he's talking about the possibility of generative AI rather than what it can do today. And it's working out for him. But honestly, if you have genuine insights, you are more interesting to the press, to conferences and to, events on innovation than just another provider in your sector. So one of the benefits is that you get these media interviews, invitations, you get invitations to speak at conferences, to speak at roundtables, to give your expert commentary. And why does this matter? It matters because this builds your long-term professional credibility. Because the interviews that I gave, let's say now it would be like, 8 years ago? Anyway, a while ago, those interviews and those conference appearances are actually still useful to me today, even though retail tech is not where I'm operating anymore. But essentially, once you start being seen as an expert in innovation, you start being seen as a tech innovator, then this compounds over time. And so let's say you decide to switch your focus and maybe in 10 years' time, you want to become an investor. Maybe you want to get into venture capital in 10 years' time. Having built up that professional visibility as a tech innovator is going to help you then. This is not about ego. This is about signal. This is about being known as somebody who's worth listening to. Number two, you own the type of CEO level skills that a lot of business owners never ever gain. And these skills are very lucrative and you can actually monetize those skills while you're building your tech venture. So when you are becoming a tech founder, for example, you might fundraise. And if you're fundraising from investors, even when you're just learning to do it, when you're just doing the fundraising before you even close, you have to learn how to pitch. That takes a while. You have to learn how to get those pitch meetings in the first place. You have to learn how to answer questions. You have to learn how to lead the conversation with investors in a very specific way. And you're thinking, well, if I'm a business owner, I've already learned how to sell stuff. There's a really big difference, let me tell you, because I have sold stuff and I have sold equity. And those are two really different things because selling equity is like this very theoretical concept. If I were to say to you, look, I'm going to sell you this glass, you will understand what it is. There is a glass of water in my hand. You might think, okay, this is useful, this is not useful. You understand what it is. Selling equity is like this very theoretical concept. So I genuinely think once you can sell equity in a startup, you can sell pretty much anything. So when you're a tech founder, if you have chosen to go through the fundraising journey, whether it's through investors or accelerators, you've learned fundraising mechanics. You've learned investor communications. You've learned media positioning. You've learned how to position yourself. You've learned how to explain your product. Even if you're not fundraising, the fact that you know product leadership, you know how to tell the story of your product, the story of your customer, and how to explain complex tech ideas simply, which you will have to do either to customers or to investors, or, to both a lot of the time. Basically, you get this, frankly, very 21st century future-proof skill set. Why does this matter? It matters because these skills are transferable and they unlock opportunities like being on an advisory board. So, for example, I am on the advisory board of an AI company. That AI company is doing quite well. Just the fact that I am on the advisory board of this AI company opens me up to more opportunities because people want to understand what that's like. But also, frankly, as an advisor, I have some equity in that company. And so I'm hoping that's going to work out really, really well for me. Also, this kind of role, this kind of skill set opens you up to board positions. And a lot of boards are looking for people who have experience in digital innovation because, the whole world is going through digital and AI transformation. So if you get that skill set, then, okay, you're opening up to board positions. And this is something that you can actually do part-time, really lucrative, whilst you're building your tech venture. This also opens you up to other high-value opportunities, like, giving some consulting to an organization going through digital transformation, for example. Just this skill set alone can change your earning ceiling. And what I really like about this is that when you are a tech innovator and you are seen as a tech innovator, yes, we're talking about your skill set being monetizable, we're talking about the fact that you're now being invited to all sorts of interesting, glamorous press opportunities, but also it's how you see yourself and how you talk about yourself. Because previously, your identity would have been defined by what you've already done. So you have created this thing and these are your results. But we don't want to just let our past define us, right? We also want our future to define us. And when you're building something for the future, then that's when your future is defining you. Because when you are creating something new, then you are somebody who builds new things. You are relevant to innovation conversations. You are no longer just, boxed into this one industry. This is why you see people in, tech founders. Yes, they're speaking in their industry. So in my case, I was speaking in the retail industry, but you also then just get opened up to the whole innovation and tech innovation landscape in the first place, which is actually much bigger, much more interesting, and, has a lot more opportunity. So the third point is that we already said that the media starts asking for your opinions, and we already said that you gain this really monetizable skill set. So the third point is that when people start asking for your opinion, you can charge for it. This is literally how Tech for Non-Techies started. So I was writing about what I was learning as a non-technical founder, running my first company. I was writing about that in Forbes. Those articles did well because nobody else was writing about being a non-technical founder. And then as a result, basically I got lots of incoming messages, and then I thought, okay, let me create some content. Let me do some advisory work on non-technical founders. That's how Tech for Non-Techies started. But you might be thinking, okay, well, good for you, but I don't want to start a whole education company. Totally fine. Because, an education company is a lot of work. What I would say to you is that I'm thinking of one of my students who he was in the automotive industry, and he literally just started posting what he was learning on LinkedIn. And one of the things he would do is he would go to events. Sometimes he was a speaker, a lot of the time he wasn't. So he would go to an industry event and he would make some notes, and he would essentially rewrite those notes and post them on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn post. And he did this fairly frequently, but definitely not every day, like a few times a month. And what happened was that then people started seeing him as this innovation expert in the automotive industry. So they started reaching out to him, including one of those insights companies. And they basically said, we really want to talk to you. We see that you're this expert. Can we have an hour of your time for $500? So he naturally said yes. And this was really easy for him to do. He didn't need to prepare. He literally just needed to be on Zoom and he needed to be sober. That's it. And he needed to answer their questions. So once you are seen as a tech innovator in your industry, what happens is that people ask for your strategic input, people ask for your product advice, you get a lot of founders asking you for feedback, you get investors, early stage investors like angel investors saying, hey, I'm looking at this opportunity, what do you think? You also get people from the corporate world saying, hey, we're kind of working on this, what do you think about this? Basically, you get people who are working on interesting things, asking you for your opinion. So it feels nice. Like when I get those messages from somebody really impressive, honestly, it does feel nice. But it also can pay well because, a half an hour call, a 1 hour call is definitely billable and at like senior level rates. And also you have zero overhead. And this is not, just random coaching, like, find your goddess within. You are giving experienced operator advice. And so the more you are seen as a tech founder, the more you are seen as a tech innovator in your industry, the more this stuff happens to you. And I see this with my students and I see this with myself all the time. Now, benefit number 4 of becoming a tech founder is that you become slightly harder to bullshit, especially by tech people. So I'll give you this example. I was at the JP Morgan Tech Investment Conference a couple of months ago, as you guys know, because I already did a podcast about that. So at this investor conference, one of the bits of it was a panel discussion with some vibe coding CEOs. And so there were a couple of vibe coding CEOs who made claims about what their startups could do that I knew to be technologically very dubious. So, they were basically saying, anybody can use our platform and then you can just write code and it's going to be so amazing, blah, blah, blah. Most of the people in the room were finance guys because this was an investment conference. So most people were like from family offices or pension funds and so on. And they were lapping it up. They were like, yes, this sounds really interesting. Tell us more. But, I just decided to ruin the party for everybody. And I stood up and I asked a question. I said, okay, well, how do your claims about vibe coding work in practice, given that AI hallucinates and given that, if somebody can't tell what good code is and AI hallucinates, what do you do to solve that problem? And that meant that these vibe coding CEOs who were saying all sorts of grandiose claims about their total addressable market, they basically had to backtrack and say, you know what, our stuff is actually mostly used for developers because they're the ones that can really check the code. And, first of all, I like the fact that you can't pull the wool over my eyes. I like that. And that does make me feel more powerful. That does make me feel more powerful in the digital age. And we can really, really see why this is important now, especially in a time of AI hype. And it's really important for you as a leader to be able to do that because there are all sorts of companies who are going to say all sorts of things. And if you actually understand, if you've maybe built something fairly simple, even if you're just on the journey to building it, you are going to know so much more. You're going to understand so much more. You're going to be able to ask such better questions, even just within 6 months of working on a tech product than you are without it. So going back to JP Morgan, obviously my question made me very noticeable as the tech expert in a room full of finance people, which is really useful because then people came up to me, asked me for my opinion, wanted to get to know me and so on. That's useful for the future. But also, I also just do want to clarify that I didn't want to make these vibe coding people just look bad for the sake of it. I don't like making somebody look bad so I can look good. But if somebody is making false claims, then I have no mercy. Anyway, getting back to you. Once you have built a simple tech product, when you're even just on your way to building it, you already understand sequencing. You know where the risk of creating something really sits. You can smell hand waving. You can basically, you're not falling for innovation theater. This means that you're hiring better developers, you waste less money, you ask better questions, and you spot bad advice earlier. And you have that professional, sophisticated level of skepticism that only a real professional has. And this skill is going to be with you forever. And this is one of those monetizable skills that people really, really want and actually genuinely pay for. Point number, I believe 5. I think we're now up to 5. So here's another benefit, which is kind of more fun. You basically become interesting in a way that is compounding socially and professionally. And I'll give you an example. So I now have a good friendly relationship with a billionaire founder of a private equity firm. And we meet up fairly regularly and I ask him for advice. I share my opinion on what's happening in my side of the market. He tells me what he is working on. And in general, I find these conversations really, really interesting and really inspiring because seeing somebody who's a self-made billionaire and like seeing how they think, it's just really useful because then you can go away and you can think, oh, okay, so this is what they do. This is how they structure their day. This is maybe what I should be doing as well. And honestly, when I'm thinking like, I've known him for a while, but when did we start building this relationship? And it's when he literally saw that I was building something and building something really ambitious. Honestly, he wouldn't have given me the time of day if I was just another middle manager or if I just had another kind of identikit business. And we work in very different fields. So it's not like he desperately needs my insights. Like I think he's fine without me. He's managed to make his billions without me. However, he finds it interesting to talk to me. I find it interesting to talk to him. We have mutual respect and enjoy spending time together. And the reason why this is a benefit is once you are working on something and you are genuinely putting in the effort, you're not just kind of waving your hands, but you're actually creating something and you have an ambition to maybe not change the world, but change an industry, then you are working on something incredibly ambitious. And that's when game recognizes game. And I've genuinely found this with my students. And this happens even at fairly early stages, even in the first year of you becoming a tech founder. If you actually create something, you release something, you manage to get people on board, you manage to get your first few customers, other people who have built other things, they know what that journey is like. They respect that journey. And so anybody who's gone through it, they basically are kind of, they're much more open to talking to you if you've gone through that difficult journey too. And here's the last hidden benefit of becoming a tech founder. You basically start feeling like you are playing the game, not just commenting on it. So, there are lots of commentators on AI, on tech, on all sorts of digital innovation, and they're posting all over on LinkedIn. And then you look at what they're doing and, well, basically not much or nothing. It's not really particularly relevant to their actual work. Whereas if you start creating something new, if you follow your convictions, if you see a gap in the market and you don't just talk to people about it, but you actually do something about it, then you are putting yourself in a completely different category. You're putting yourself in the category of innovators, not the category of the majority. And the majority of the people are basically sitting there on the sidelines commenting. So you're not optimizing what already exists, which is what most people are doing. You're not standing on the sidelines and you are testing yourself against uncertainty. And so you're really actually seeing like, what am I made of? Can I really do this? You are living life at this like very high octane level. And why is this a good thing? Why is this a useful thing? It's because then you are becoming the biggest, most fierce, and frankly, most interesting version of yourself. Because, we all have those thoughts of, well, I could do this, and what if I did that? But it's the people who actually go and do it. Those are the people that are the most impressive. And it's not just impressing other people, it's impressing yourself. So, honestly, I'm really impressed with the stuff that I've done, and I forget it all the time because, I think any kind of working professional, you open your inbox and there's a whole bunch of problems and you're like, oh my God, okay, this is what I have to deal with today. But then I take a pause and I think, I have done some really cool stuff and I have had ideas and I have followed through on those ideas and I have recruited teams and I got customers and I made stuff that was in my head exist in real life. And I've helped other people take stuff out of their heads and make it real, turn it into matter in the real world. And that is really, really, really cool. That just feels good. It's not even what other people think, but I think very highly of myself now, and honestly, I think much more so than I would have done if I hadn't done this. So as you are reflecting on this year, on 2025, and you are thinking about what you want for 2026, I want you to think about these ancillary benefits of becoming a tech founder, because this could sway your decision to follow your intuition and follow that vision of filling that gap in the market. And honestly, filling that gap in the market that you're seeing, it is going to require you to stretch yourself. But precisely because it is difficult, this is why you get into this elevated position of people who can do hard things. But I'm not saying to you that you must build a startup, because a tech product is a solution to a problem. So if you don't see a problem, don't worry about this. Find the problem to solve first and then think about the benefits of becoming a tech founder. But if you're one of those people who sees the problem, who sees the gap in the market, then definitely listen to this episode. Because I'm not saying you must build a startup, but I am saying building tech products has side effects that can meaningfully upgrade your professional life. And on that note, thank you very much for listening. Make sure that you sign up to our free class in January on how to go from business owner to tech founder without the 100K developer disaster. That class is on the 13th of January, and the link to register is techfornontechies.co/January. That's techfornontechies.co/January, or just go to the link in the show notes. It's going to be an awesome class. You're going to learn the frameworks that I have taught to founders who have gone from business owner to tech founder in less than a year. So if you want to start your 2026 with a bang, then techfornontechies.co/January. That's where you need to go to register. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back with you next week. Ciao!